This is kvci.blogspot.com, YouTube, Boston, G.B.R. January 12, 2011. Georgia's State Governor Nathan Deal issued an executive order to remove the Quitman 10, or rather 3 members of the Quitman 10, from the Brooks County School Board of Education. I read the order. I didn't read anything in it wherein them being indicted would impact their duties as or the integrity of the Brooks County Board of Education. However, they were removed, which we all expected. But here in South Georgia, I also call on Governor Deal to issue an executive order to deal with the Valdosta and Lowndes County Jail, wherein 30 human beings or jailed inmates have died from 1994 to 2009. And from 2009 to present, we are told that the Sheriff's Department in the state of Georgia is not permitted, are not subject to, don't have a responsibility to notify the citizens because they are exempt from the Georgia Open Records Act. Therefore, local citizens do not know how many people have died in and around the Valdosta area. I'm asking Amy Carter, Ellis Black, and others particularly who jump parties. This also relates to the Quitman 10, as far as I'm concerned, in disenfranchising the voters in the state of Georgia. So I'm asking that our governor, as a retired military veteran of 20 years, that our governor issue an executive order to put a stop to the many jail deaths in the Valdosta and Lowndes County Jail. I'm asking Amy Carter, I repeat, Amy Carter, to be just as concerned about life as she is about the rights of citizens in Brooks County, Georgia. I'm going to play a little bit of a tape just to let you all feel the flavor here in South Georgia along race relations and the lack thereof. And we realize that now that there's a black African American in the White House, we are seeing new precedents being set. But here in Valdosta, on September 2nd, 1998, inmate Willie James Williams died in the Lowndes County Jail. At that time, from 94 to 98, there had only been 3 deaths. But now we are leading the state of Georgia in jail deaths. And yet, several governors has never issued an executive order, not even to ask the question who complied with Judge Hugh Lawson's court order that stemmed from complaints in the jail back in 1988. And the Honorable Judge Hugh Lawson from the Middle District of Georgia issued an executive order that the 105 violations be corrected. Governor Deal, we're only asking you to follow up and see if we can put a stop to the deaths in the Lowndes County Jail. I'm asking our elected officials to insist that Governor Deal be as responsive to the needs of the mothers and fathers and sisters and brothers who continuously call the NAACP President, Reverend Rose, NAACP President Lee Touchton, and myself about jail deaths. Come on, Mr. Governor, step up to the plate. We need help down here. But listen what happens here in South Georgia, and nobody seems to care. Listen please, because the truth must be told so the lies can be exposed. This was the death of Willie James Williams. The inquest, and these are actual people that served at the inquest. Hear from them and feel the tension that's in the air. Nobody is surprised by the governor's decision. There are people in Brooks County, I was over there yesterday, they are asking what was the racial composition of the people over on the governor's special select committee. Questions are being asked because we know that South Georgia has a history. Brooks County in particular is the home of the Mary Turner lynchings, Hayes Turner, Will Head, Mr. Thompson, and in 1 week, in the minds of many black African Americans, we still see problems in Brooks County and South Georgia. Just listen to some of this tape put together by students at Valdosta State University, and you can see this online. It's called The Chorus of Fear. This is an excerpt piece.
They were difficult. Nonetheless, they were quick. After just 1 hour, the jury ruled 3-2 along racial lines that Willie James Williams' death had been accidental. The decision implied that Williams' death was, in the words of Coroner Charles Exum, unintended, unforeseeable, and unexpected. One of the jurors, a white woman, told the Valdosta Daily Times that a charge of involuntary manslaughter against Deputy Farmer was unwarranted. He was doing his job, she affirmed. Jury foreman Stuart Mullis reached the same conclusion.
I have no hesitation that the evidence that I heard, if a law enforcement officer in the fulfillment of his normal duties causes an injury that results in death, if he's doing his normal takedown procedure, that he did right. It's an awful thing to say, but that's the way the law says.
Juror Eddie Kuntz, however, disagreed. Williams.
Be it known that Eddie Kuntz is a retired military man that served his country. He was a juror on the coroner's inquest, and he repeatedly tells me that there was no justice in that case. And so we must ask ourselves today, what will change? What will change unless the people change? And the people cannot change unless the environment change. And so we're going to change the environment, hopefully, by giving you truth. Eddie Kuntz.
Could have been avoided, he said.
I thought, to me, that he did cause his injury. I can't say his death, but when I looked at it, I think he caused his injuries, and then everything after that.
This is about the death of inmate Willie James Williams, who supposedly died from a fall while being arrested here in Lowndes County, Georgia on September 2nd, 2008.
Led up to his death.
Moreover,
of 1998.
In the eyes of Mr. Kuntz, the entire inquest process was a farce, staged only to lend the appearance of due process and the pursuit of justice.
So they paraded us in, and it was 3 whites and 3 blacks, and I'm thinking that it was going to be like balanced, but once we got in and heard all the evidence and whatever, and then we got back to the jury room, it was like 3 whites and 2 blacks, because they made one of the blacks are alternate. I mean, I went in with the mind that it was going to be different.
Kuntz was also upset that Coroner Exum had told the Valdosta Daily Times that the jury's decision had been unanimous. Once again, the newspaper had helped create the wrong impression in this case. How is it that the critical third juror in that 5-member jury was selected as white and the alternate was chosen to be black because it came down to racial mathematics?
Now we also see that in Brooks County, that also is a racial matter. It's strange that we are in 2012 and yet it still seems to be over in Brooks County, it's all about race. Well, some people say, well, it's not about race. No, it may not be about race, but then if it's not, then race seems to be about everything. David Miller, District Attorney.
Ordinarily, the code says that the sheriff shall draw the jurors. In that case, we didn't think that would be appropriate where the person dies in the sheriff's custody. So the coroner and the foreman of the previous grand jury, because you draw them from the previous grand jury, they made the selection of those jurors.
Juror Delois Bivens.
What I didn't like about the jurors called for the inquest, it was 6 people called. They knew 5 of them were going to serve. It was set at 3-2. Now that really upset me. And so I told him, no, I don't think that we should go with doing the job. That it should be involuntary manslaughter or manslaughter. True, the jurors did get ugly. We tried not to, but we did get ugly with each other. Surely enough, it come down to, I said, well, a black and white. I said, I hope that it wouldn't have to come to this, but is this a black and white issue? And the lady said, well, you're saying that Mr. Farmer did it because he's white, and we're saying that Mr. Farmer did his job. I said, oh, in other words, because Mr. Farmer, if had he been a black policeman, where you felt like he was doing his job, well, you know, it was silence then. And it just went on and on and on.
Well, it got to the point where we were like trying to convince them. You know, the 2 black jurors, the 2, me and the lady that was on the jury. So I'm trying to convince them, did you see it? Did you see this? Let's look at it, you know. And then it got to one of those like shot match, you know, and matter of fact, I walked out the jury room and said, I just couldn't take any more, I was trying to convince them. I'm trying to get them to see it my way, I guess, you know, because I thought my way was right.
Jury foreman Stuart Mullis recalls the same moment.
The jury room was...
This is only to highlight, to let people know that here in South Georgia, this was in '98, and we can see that that what we see in Brooks County just could be microcosm of other things around the state. That it's all about race, and so this is why people question the actions of those that we elect into office today here in Georgia in particular, especially since 2008, wherein people staunchly comes out and include retired generals and colonels and active duty officers, commission officers, by the way, against the President of the United States, which is unprecedented. So we see that something is happening in our world, something is happening in our country, and if we are not careful, when they call us again to go fight wars overseas, I'm sorely afraid that people may decide to stay home and fight for right, truth, and justice here.
6 people trying their best. So the people who served on that inquest were in a small sphere of our culture, were great citizens. They took a tough situation. It was done the way that the founders of our country and our system, and all the way back to England, I guess, set things up where a group of peers hear the evidence and make a decision.
What would have happened if there had been 3 blacks and 2 whites?
I don't know. You know, I know what you want me to say. You want me to say that it would have been divided equally the other way on racial lines. I don't know that.